Hey, it's Rebecca, and welcome to the very first episode of Returning, a podcast to return to yourself and the wisdom within. I am so glad you're here with me. I've been called to create this podcast for such a long time now, and the journey from the original call to landing in your ears right now at this moment has been a big one. I think that is very true of any kind of creation that we're called to put out into the world, particularly when it comes to sharing your voice and just putting something new out in the world. So I'm just really happy to be here with you finally with this podcast. Whilst the energy of this podcast really has been bubbling up within me for quite a long time, for a couple of years now, the essence of this podcast kept shape-shifting, and I've been creating it in a time where I've been changing so much, and I know I'm not alone there. We're all really going through big periods of change ourselves, and the world's been changing in that time as well. And so it's been a really long journey, and I'm really grateful that it's actually taken a little while to come into form. It's taken a little while to get really clear on my why of offering this podcast. Really pondering deeply in like what the purpose is, what's the intention, and how is it going to help? Because ultimately, I really want to support as many people as I can in tuning into the wisdom within, and living into these questions has really, really helped me get clear and shape the podcast in a way that I really hope will serve, support, and inspire you. So I want to tell you a little bit about the podcast itself and what you can expect each week and in each episode. So each season features really a diverse selection of different episode styles, and I'm sure it will evolve as the seasons go on as well. Some episodes will be really short to help you connect with the wisdom within quickly. I think this is so important in our busy lives. And I'm such a big believer in repetition and the consistency of showing up and connecting with the wisdom within, rather than having to always do these long-winded deep dives. I'm a busy mum, and I run my own company, and I'm a busy writer and creative. And so I really, really, really get and respect how limited and valuable our time is. So there'll be some really lovely, short, succinct, but potent episodes that will be coming your way. And then there will also be some more in-depth deep dives. So my intention there is, no matter how much time you've got, maybe you're driving, maybe you've got a little bit longer, or maybe you've just got 5 minutes in between while you're waiting to pick up someone, your kids from school or something. No matter how much time you've got, you're going to be able to head to the podcast and find something that will meet you and really help you to connect with your own inner wisdom. Each week, we'll be sharing new episodes from inspiring conversations with beautiful, inspiring guests I'll also be sharing intimate stories, reflections, and also sacred practices, so meditations and other practices, so you can really, really tune in and connect with the wisdom within. I'll also be answering specific questions, so you can head over to rebeccacampbell.me/podcast to ask a question there as well, and we will ensure that we collate them and feature some of them in the episodes. Returning the podcast really is all about supporting and inspiring you to connect with and really live from that innate wisdom within. I call it the soul. You might call it your intuition, your spirit. It's that part of you that is always calling you, always guiding you. And in my experience, when we connect in with it and really invite this part of us to lead us, this is how we end up living a purposeful life and really living a life beyond our dreams, one that's in deep alignment with who we really are. My intention with the podcast as well is to really support you in returning to yourself again and again and again through all of life's changes. We really are living in such changing times. The world is changing, collectively we're changing, and individually we're changing. And so, yeah, this podcast really is, my intention there is to be like an anchor to help you connect in with the inner wisdom within so that it can guide you through all the changes of life. I'm going to dedicate this first episode to exploring more about what I mean when I say returning to the wisdom within, which is really the essence of what this podcast is about. But first, as we will be doing in every single episode, we're going to take a moment to open sacred space together. If you're familiar with my work, whether you've trained with me online, whether you're part of the sanctuary, or if you've just attended a workshop with me or a retreat, you'll know that opening sacred space is a really simple but powerful tool that I use all the time. I use it before I do any sacred work, any creative work, and I use it to really shift into the energy, sacred energy, and invite our soul, our inner wise self, to step forward and be here. It also, of course, activates a special energetic space, a container where we're able to really tap into our intuition. We can connect with creative ideas and sometimes have them land fully formed. There's also the space where manifestation and healing happen more easily. So I know how precious your time is, so let's jump right into opening sacred space together. Feel free to close your eyes if that feels good, and if not, just keep them open. But in the center of your heart, imagining a beautiful flower, and invite it to open now, petal by petal, revealing a light in the middle. This is your wise, intuitive inner self. It's the part of you that is always guiding you and always available for you to return to it. Let's take a deep breath in together now and inviting your soul, your wise inner self, to step forward. And then together, just taking a moment now to acknowledge the keepers and custodians of the land where I am and where you are too, known and unknown. So my real deepest prayer with this podcast is to create a sacred space, a little breathing space in your busy life for you to return to yourself and the wisdom that exists within you. I believe that we are all intuitive, we're all creative, and our soul, our inner self is always available to guide us. And so, this podcast really is about stepping into a little window of sacred space for you to connect in with that wise part of you. Ultimately, this podcast is for anyone who is on a spiritual journey. And from my perspective, I see life as a great big spiritual journey, and the soul is on a great big spiritual journey. But once we awaken to the fact that we're a soul having a human experience, we really are on a conscious spiritual journey. And so it's for anyone who is on their spiritual journey and conscious that they are. It's for anyone who has that call, that knowing that yeah, I'm here for a reason. Perhaps I chose to come here to be in this body, in this life, at this time, on this planet. And it's also for people who really want to make the most of their life. So, it's a place to come to be inspired and to listen to the inspiration that is wanting to whisper to us. It's also a space for us to be really real, to not shy away from talking about the genuine challenges of life. And this new podcast really feels particularly exciting for me. And this is really one of the big reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, is to create a space where I could share some of the things that I'm really going through real time, and really share in a new way that's a little bit more authentic. That because of the format, it's a little bit of a better space than, say, social media, to connect a little bit more deeply. It's more of an intimate space. So yeah, I must say it feels a little bit vulnerable because I'm really devoted to keeping it real. So I suspect in this podcast, in this series and beyond, we're really going to get intimate. We're really going to go there. We're going to be keeping it real. I'm devoted to keeping it real. And so in some episodes, I will be sharing some personal stories that I haven't shared publicly before. I'll be exploring topics that platforms like some social media platforms, they're just not able to hold and honor particular conversations. And in other episodes, I'll be sharing inspiring conversations and lots of joyful, joyous, insightful ones as well. I'll be having beautiful conversations with peers and other people who inspire me, and invite us all to really live into the questions that are bubbling up within us. In some episodes, I'll also be sharing meditations and sacred practices to support and help you to connect in with your inner self and really hear and act on the wise calls of your soul. In other episodes, I'll be sharing this space with you and inviting your questions in for us all to live into together and reflect on together. And in every episode, we will be beginning by opening sacred space. And in every episode, we'll also be closing with a soul inquiry prompt for you to really connect in with your own inner wisdom, and then receive clear guidance on how you're being called to act on that inner wisdom through taking a baby step. So watch out for that at the end of every episode, including this one. One of the big themes of this podcast really is living a purposeful life. So maybe you are looking to discover your life purpose, or perhaps you are already really clear on your purpose, but you're just wanting to deepen it even more or step into it in a bigger way, a more courageous way even. Or maybe you're just going through the ever unfolding changes of life and wanting to return to yourself and your soul's deepest calling as you do. I believe that our soul is always calling us every moment of every day. And so, even when it comes to those big questions like what's my life purpose, when we discover like how we're being called to live in a purposeful way, from my experience, it's not a one-time thing. And sometimes we do receive a big answer to that big question, what's my soul calling me to do? Or what is my purpose? But in my experience, in order to properly live a soul-led life and a purposeful, aligned life, we need to be constantly tuning in and acting on that inner wisdom. And so, my main intention with this podcast is to really create a space and a steady rhythm to help you to return again and again to the innate wisdom that you have within yourself. It is a gentle prompt to return to the practices and the tools that deepen your connection with life, your inner self, and your intuition as well. It's also an invitation to return to the big questions of life and to really live into them. So, live the question, and ultimately to deepen the connection and relationship that you have with yourself, which, of course, we know is the most important relationship you'll ever have. It's the one that was there the moment you were born, and it will continue on in my belief system, even beyond when you take your last breath. So let me tell you what I mean when I say returning to the wisdom within. In our modern world, most of us were taught to look outside ourselves for guidance. This podcast really is about flipping that. So doing the flip and going in rather than looking outside of us for guidance or doing what we're meant to do. It is about connecting to and cultivating a really deep relationship with your inner self. I call the inner self the soul. So, yeah, when I say the soul, I'm really talking about the inner self, your true self, your authentic self. For me, this really is where our intuition resides. It's where our creativity comes from. And it's also where we can truly connect in with what I call source energy. My life completely changed when I decided to develop a deep relationship with my inner self and made the decision to ask this part of me to step forward and lead. Prior to that, I was regularly receiving guidance from my intuition, but rarely acting on it in that kind of consistent way. So, when I say returning to the wisdom within, I'm really referring to two things. First of all, it's about making a connection with your inner self, but then it's not just about making the connection, but then actually acting on it. So you're taking this grounded action on the wisdom within. You're integrating it into your life. You're really inviting that wise part of you to lead you. My teachers always taught me that all of the intuition in the world is absolutely pointless unless we act on it. And so this will be a big theme in this podcast. So it's really here to help you not only make the connection with your intuition, with your wise inner self, but then also act on it too. When we act on our intuition, we actually build up the muscles to trust it even more. And so it just becomes easier and easier to properly live in congruence with the wisdom within. When we act on our intuition, we eventually find ourselves living our purpose, one baby step after another. For the first season of this podcast, I'll be actually dropping 2 episodes a week. So if you'd like to receive each new episode, then make sure you subscribe or sign up to receive episodes in your inbox at rebeccacampbell.me/podcasts. At the very end of every episode, you'll find guided soul inquiry prompts. These are essentially journaling prompts to help you receive the wisdom within. Soul inquiry is a practice that I do every day. It's a practice where we really enter into a direct dialogue with our inner wise self. I like to write my answers as I receive them, like in a notebook. I've got a notebook that's dedicated to it. I find that as if I write my the guidance that comes through, I receive it more deeply, and yeah, I'm able to shift gears through writing it. But feel free to do what works for you. You can speak it out loud or just hold the soul inquiry prompt in your heart and tune in that way. But yeah, I'm a big believer in writing it down because when it's in black and white in front of you, or maybe a different color depending on if you have a different color pen. But yeah, when it's in front of you, it's making it more real. It's bringing it into the physical, and we are souls having a human experience, and so it is important to shift our guidance, our ideas, our inspiration, our wisdom into the physical to properly integrate them. Right, so we're going to move into today's soul inquiry prompt. So grab a pen and paper if you have one handy. Perhaps slow down your breath, and you can even put your hand on your heart and tune in to today's soul inquiry prompt. If you're writing it down, you can write it down with me now at the top of the page and then begin your journaling. So today's prompt is, what helps you to return to the wisdom within? What helps you to return to the wisdom within? What helps you to return to the wisdom within? So now it is time to commit to a baby step, a grounded action to integrate what's come through for you today into your life. So I want you to write down one baby step you can take to integrate it into your life today. What's one baby step you're being called to take to integrate it into your life today? So your baby step should be something really, really small. So something you can do that'll take you like 5 minutes tops. And that you can do in the next 24 hours. And feel free to tag me on social media with your baby step when you're doing it, if you like. Right, let's share a deep breath together as we close this sacred space that we've stepped in and co-created together. I'm so grateful for you being here. If you would like to keep returning to yourself and returning here with me, then please hit subscribe. If you'd like the show notes from today's episode or to just receive each new episode directly to your inbox, then head over to rebeccacampbell.me/podcasts. Have a great day.